For me also, I just want to mention to people, if you're really interested in a card, don't just jump on that buy it now price or even best offer, just because, especially with an expensive card, you may be able to get it for even anywhere from 20 to 40 to $100 cheaper, had you have waited it out.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Wax Talk with Raw Mints. I'm Carlos.
And I'm Bruce.
And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to navigate the hobby online. Some of the best practices, some of the things to look out for when buying. We're going to be mostly talking about buying today, but this does sort of apply. The reverse would apply with selling. So I guess it is kind of about buying and selling online. We're just going to kind of explore the different avenues, the different methods that we use to purchase not only single cards, but wax, the websites we use, and also how to somewhat protect yourself when you're not only buying on eBay, but also on social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram. So we're going to be talking about just kind of the overall online aspect to the hobby and how you can navigate it and get the best deal possible and protect yourself at the same time. But before we get into that, as always, if you could please be sure to like, subscribe, follow, rate, review the podcast on Apple Podcasts if you can. Tell a friend, share the podcast with somebody that might be involved in the hobby or is looking to get into it. We try to make our episodes friendly for all audiences, of old collectors, veteran collectors, to new collectors, and people that kind of explore the hobby in between. Thank you for listening each week. We really appreciate it a lot. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. All right, man. So like I said, today's episode, we're going to be talking about just navigating the hobby online and what to look out for, how to kind of find the best deal and physically search for the best deals, and what to look out for if you are new to the hobby. And even if you're not new to the hobby, there's a lot of different ways that people can get creative and scam people. It happens. It's just part of any interaction online. It's just there's a potential risk with that. But we're just going to try to share a few of the tips that we have to keep yourself protected so that you're either not losing a card or you're not out some money. So I know that we do a lot of buying and selling on eBay. What would you say is the biggest point for transacting on eBay, whether it's buying or selling for you?
Biggest thing for me is if you're able to reach out to the seller. We have people reach out to us, when listing cards, but reaching out to a seller and, it depends, if you're talking about a raw card or a graded card, but let's give a raw card for an example, because, a picture can only do so much justice for a card. Especially when viewing online, but reaching out to someone, kind of talking to them a little bit, getting their opinion on what they think it might grade. That's one of the best points before buying something, I think, because you're able to kind of get the person's opinion on it. And a lot of the time, something that I think we really want to get into in this episode, as far as being careful of before you make a purchase is, at some points you're able to talk to sellers and come to agreements on cards, maybe get the card lower than they originally were going to let it go for, or at the same time maybe trying to make a purchase or sale outside of eBay so that both buyer and the seller can avoid fees. But that's something like I wanted to specifically ask you about too, because I know we've had those experiences as far as trying to make those purchases or sales outside of eBay, and it's can be really sketchy at times. So, what do you follow as far as like if you get a vibe where you're willing to either make that deal happen outside of eBay or, just stick to eBay for protection purposes?
So I would say when it comes to selling cards on eBay and maybe somebody wants to take a transaction outside of eBay, really the first thing that I do and I try to keep front of mind is how much is this card worth? Is it a high dollar card? I feel like high dollar cards tend to carry a higher risk when it comes to even just eBay in general, not even going outside of eBay. But higher value cards, they seem to be a bigger target for potential scams for some reason, just because it's a lot of money that's transacting. It's just a bigger payday, I think. It's a bigger fish when scammers are trying to scam. But I try to evaluate what I really think the card is worth. And then I also keep in mind how much I paid for that card, or how much I'm in it for. If it's a card that I pulled pack fresh and I wasn't in it for too much as far as picking up the product or box or pack that I pulled it out of, or if I maybe had got it at a really, really low price on eBay at some point, if I got it in a bulk lot, or maybe found it at a local card shop or a card show, like I try to determine how much I really paid for the card. And if I paid for grading costs, I try to kind of determine the literal cost that I have invested in the card. Usually if it's a card that's over maybe 200, 250, I try to do as much due diligence as I can in trying to vet the buyer and just trying my best to figure out if this person's legit or not. I usually ask them for their Instagram. That's usually where I choose to message people. That way I can see, are they a collector? Like, do they post their cards a lot? Like, do they post their PC, or do they have what seems to be legit followers? They don't have to have a ton of followers, but if it just seems like they're a legit person, that I could.
Oh yeah, just if they appear just to be a normal person,
right?
Because you don't want to see some like fake account,
right,
and then get automatically scared away.
Right, and like that's kind of the first red flag. If they don't even want to work with me out on Instagram, then it's kind of like, or if they don't have Instagram, which again, you're dealing with people of all, types of ages and all that stuff. So some people or like people that just choose not to be on social media, when in that case, I'm just going to say, you know what, man, like there's no way I can really like keep a paper trail of this. So I'm just going to go ahead and deal with you on eBay. But if I can kind of verify this person is real, like they have an actual photo for the Instagram, they have a posting history, like they didn't just post 40 photos that same day, like you just kind of best practices that you should kind of keep in mind when online anyways, when talking to people. But yeah, that's usually what I like to do first when it comes to selling. When it comes to buying, it's kind of the same thing. The biggest thing that I look for when buying cards or maybe wanting to make a deal outside of eBay, I'll look at their eBay profile. I'll see how many transactions they've made over the course of the last 12 months, what their feedback rating is, which that can be manipulated at some points. But if this person's got like over 3,000 feedback rating and their feedback score is 100%, I'm going to go ahead and assume, and they have a lot of cards listed currently, I'm going to go ahead and just assume that it's okay. My risk is lower. But if they have like 0 feedback score or even under 100, me personally, I'm going to just go ahead and eat the fee and transact on eBay, just because it's just, we work hard for our money, dude. And a lot of people out there do the same. And if we're going to be, purchasing something or making an investment, we're going to make sure that it's a smart decision that we're making. That's usually what I do. That's kind of my rule of thumb. I look at their feedback score, see if it seems legit, see if they have a lot of cards listed, see how many sales they've had on eBay. If you kind of have a weird or like a sketched out feeling, I would say just trust that. Because you've had a feeling like that before, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it's happened to me before in the past where when I was picking up some Pokemon cards raw, I think I picked up at least one incident where I picked up a card, and it wasn't a very high dollar card. It was a card I think I needed for a set I was trying to complete, and it was like, I don't know, $7 or $8 or whatever. And after I made the purchase, I looked at this person's account and just realized they don't have the best feedback. Like, what am I doing? The picture quality wasn't the best, but I thought, hey, it's a low card, that I'm not really spending a lot of money on. I'm just going to go ahead and get it. And it took like maybe months down the line where I actually ended up getting a refund for that card, for whatever reason. And just because obviously the seller couldn't fulfill, sending the card out. And I had tried to go back to that same person's account, and I don't even think it was there anymore. So I don't know. It could be anything. It could have been some kid trying to list something and he wasn't sure what he was doing. It could have been anything really. I mean, there's incidences like that you kind of just take a gamble on, like we did in our previous episode before, the card show approach about things. And that's one of our favorite primary ways to, pick up cards, singles, or even wax sometimes, is because, you have everything in person and it's just more, it's just kind of a funner experience, whereas opposed to if you are on eBay, you can kind of just go crazy and just, you're throwing, I have probably over, the max limit of cards in my watch list right now. But that's also another good way to follow the market, with cards on eBay, is because you get to see what cards are actually selling, what they're going for. Things happen, but just kind of do your research that way, and everything that you said was, to me, my favorite buying and selling points is actually trying to talk to the people that you're buying or selling to, because you may build a relationship with them. You may buy cards from them again, because they have really good deals, or they may buy from you again because you offered a fair price. So I think that those are the biggest buying and selling points as far as eBay goes, or whatever, wherever you're buying and selling cards. For me also, I just want to mention to people, if you're really interested in a card, don't just jump on that buy it now price or even best offer, just because, especially with an expensive card, you may be able to get it for even anywhere from $20 to $40 to $100 cheaper, had you have waited it out, put cards in your watch list, actually looking at completed listings of what these cards are selling for. For us, I feel like realistically, if we see a buy it now and it's too good to be true, we just go with it, especially with soccer, because we followed the player enough, or the product or the market, so we know that if the card is too good to be true at a price and it's already graded most of the time when we pick up stuff, then we just kind of pull the trigger on it.
Let's rephrase that too good to be true, because that usually is a negative connotation. Because, if you're like, too good to be true, in my opinion, is like you're seeing a 96 Kobe Topps PSA 10 listed for $100. Like that's too good to be true, in my opinion.
That definitely is too good to be true.
Right.
But, to an extent, what I'm saying, like Mbappe's cards have dropped too. So a lot of those buy it nows are worth buying now.
Right. I think rather than too good to be true is like, if you know how much cards are going for and you see it at a price that's like maybe $100 or $150 cheaper than what you've been seeing it at, it's like a situation where it's like, snipe it, just pull the trigger on it, because you're going to miss it if you don't.
Yeah, someone else will buy it, especially majority of the stuff that I put in my watch list. When I see prices like that, they're usually sold within a couple days.
If not sooner, yeah.
Yeah, if not right when I text you the card that I'm interested in, and I'm like, never mind, it's sold.
Yep, that happens all the time. I think you made a good point with the watch list. I think we should expand a little bit on some of the tactics that we use when picking up cards on eBay or looking to buy cards on eBay. Watch list is a great place to start. So what a watch list is, it's kind of a section of eBay that if you see a card that you're interested in and you add it to your watch list, usually if you hit add to watch list, or if you hit the little heart, if you're on your mobile, it'll go automatically to like a kind of like a folder, I guess you could say, on eBay that has all of your cards in your watch list. And I think the limit is 400 cards. So once you hit watch on it, it automatically goes to your that folder, that watch list folder. And especially nowadays with how the market's been going, people have been letting go of a lot of cards for a lot less than they were going for maybe 2 or 3 months ago. There's a lot of sellers that seem to be maybe panic selling a little bit because maybe the market's dipping more than they want it to. So right now is kind of a prime opportunity to take advantage of that. And if you have maybe a card that you've been wanting to pick up, or if you see a card that is at a good price, but you'd want it to be a little bit better, maybe 10% cheaper, maybe 25, 30% cheaper, add it to your watch list. And I know that what happens whenever a buyer adds a card to their watch list, on the sell side of things, in your like mobile app or your desktop app for eBay, a little notification gets popped up that says send offer to buyers. So as soon as somebody adds something to their watch list, it pops up on your end with buyers interested in the card, and they add it to their watch list. So you can immediately send an offer to that buyer of maybe $10 off, maybe $20 off, maybe a percentage off, And we do a lot of selling that way because the way we list our cards is we usually beat the lowest price on eBay whenever we list our cards. And that's how we move a lot of cards quickly. That's how we're able to really capitalize the market and beat the lowest priced available. So if we're already the lowest price, and usually 9 times out of 10, whenever we list cards, we usually have a best offer option in our listings. So when people do add them to their watch list, we'll send, depending on the price of the card, maybe we'll send $5 off, maybe we'll send 20 or sometimes even $50 off the card. And, the chances of that sale happening kind of go up because we're already the lowest price available on eBay. And if I'd accept $20 cheaper than the lowest price, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think that we've always done that for sure. A lot of sellers won't do that though, so don't be surprised if you put something in your watch list, you never get an offer on it. I mean, a lot of sellers don't do that, but we like to. I think it helps with sales in general. It keeps people coming back to you. If you give enough good deals, you're going to continue to have customers come back to you. So that's one of the biggest things as far as where you can utilize the watch list is, especially for us, we like to look at those cards that are however much or best offer, because then you're like, I might make an offer with this card at some point. I'm going to throw it in my watch list. And then you never know, that person could reach out to you, give you an offer. And then most of the time you'll have an option of counter offering, whatever. And you may work out a deal that way, and that might work itself out for the best. Another good thing for cards to put in your watch list is just cards that are actually in auction. Cards that even maybe ending in a day to 2 days that you maybe even throw a bid in, just in case you win it. Or maybe you notice something, you're at work. A lot of times I'll be working, I'll see a card that has like 4 hours left. So I'll just put it in my watch list and I'll get a reminder, right before that card sells, and then I'll see where it's at. And then sometimes you can win some cards for really cheap, depending on how many bidders you have on a certain card. I know that we don't necessarily like selling cards in auction. We have lost out on some big cards that we had, PSA cards, but that was a learning lesson for us. I don't think we'll ever go back to selling in auction form, possibly, but yeah, that's just kind of getting a feel for how eBay works that way. It's the best, like you said, to download the app. Keep in mind, you don't want to just get on Google, go to ebay.com or whatever and start doing, learning more about eBay that way. It's just more convenient to have the app at your fingertips and, kind of be able to figure out what cards are selling for and following auctions and having things in your watch list.
Right. To kind of cap off the watch list thing, actually, add things to your watch list, because nowadays, like what's happening right now in the market, people are, like I said, getting desperate to sell things. Pretty much anything that I've added to my watch list, especially from some of the bigger sellers on eBay that list a lot of cards, they usually just bulk send out all of those offers to buyers. And some of the sellers that I've been buying from lately, they've been offering quite a bit of money off, like even like 30 to 50 bucks off of a card. So adding to your watch list just kind of gives you another potential way to get that card a little bit cheaper than a little bit, or maybe sometimes a lot of it cheaper than what you may have seen it at. Another tip that I wanted to address and talk about is using the best offer feature. And to kind of explain what the best offer is, when sellers list cards, there's a few options for selling cards on eBay. One of the options is just a straight up buy it now price with no best offer, and whatever that price is, that's what the minimum they're probably willing to take. Like I said, you can add it to the watch list and see if they'll budge a little more. But if it's buy it now with no best offer, that's what they want to sell the card for. There's the best offer option, so it's a buy it now plus the best offer option. So you have, let's say for example, you have a card listed for $100. And you add the best offer feature, so you're allowing buyers to place a best offer. You could set it to where it auto accepts under a certain amount, and you can also set it to auto decline if the offer is lower than what you're willing to let go of it for. So the reason why I want to kind of explain that to you all is there's kind of a trick in the best offer feature on the mobile app, and I think sometimes it happens on desktop, But if you have it in the mobile app, if you search for a card and you find a card that has the best offer, right? Say that a card is listed for $50 and they have the best offer feature activated. If you just type in, like if you go in to place an offer, right? Don't hit send yet, but you just go in and you just type in, let's say $30. There's a little notification that says increase your offer because the seller will accept something higher. So you go to $35, and if that message is still popping up, then you maybe start slowly creeping up, adding $2 to that best offer price. And once that message disappears, that sometimes indicates that that's the lowest, that's their auto decline threshold. So that's a little kind of tip that I learned over the time of the course of picking up cards on eBay. And, maybe their threshold is $10 off is the minimum they're willing to let it go for. And, that little message disappears once you hit 40 and you send that offer. Like, most of the time they're going to accept it because that's kind of their threshold. That's kind of a bug. I don't know if it's a bug, but it's within the eBay app that is happening. So it doesn't always work. I've done it and they'll counter at 45, but I mean, still it's $5 off.
Yeah, and sometimes it just is what it is. Like if you see a card for 50 and it's probably worth around there, I mean, you don't want to even offer somebody like 15 bucks on it or something if they'll even accept that type of offer, because that could just piss people off. I mean, you have to realize that, yeah, if you can knock a few bucks off on a card, maybe it's even $5 to $10 off. I mean, it might be worth it. One of the things that I like to do, if I see a card that is the buy it now or best offer and I feel that card is actually reasonably priced, what I like to do is I like to just hit the buy it now button just to see what you're gonna be paying as far as for the card, the shipping, and the tax. So you round out those numbers and you're like, well, this comes out to $67.50, whatever. How can I try to make an offer where maybe I get this closer to $60 out the door, $60 shipped? That's kind of a tactic I like to use as well. Just to avoid a couple dollars even really helps. It's easier for me to pay even numbers on things if possible. If I want to get something for 30, but it's going to come out to like 34, and sometimes you got to meet in the middle. Maybe I'm paying 32, but that's just kind of a tactic I like to use just so I know, like, if I just buy this card straight up, what am I actually going to pay for it? Because it's not going to just be $50. You're going to have, fees on top of it. So something that I like to do, just to know what my options are.
That's a really good point to make, really. On the eBay interface on the front end, you're not seeing what the tax is at the end of the transaction too. So that's actually a good point to put it in your cart and view the final total before you maybe make an offer if you decide on pulling the trigger on it as well.
Yeah, and I think that's why we also brought up, trying to communicate with the seller, because at the same time, they're going to be dealing with some fees as well too, So if somebody would rather go the other approach of just selling a card for what the prices they want to sell it for, it's easier that way, it helps the buyer and the seller.
Correct. So another little tip that I wanted to share with people is adding searches to your saved search list. This is actually something that I learned how to do fairly early on, and this was how I was able to snipe cards pretty easily and like right away, and be able to see every new card that pops up within the search criteria that I have. So if you have your phone out, I'm going to do this actually while we're recording. So if you open up the eBay app and you go to the search bar, let's say 1996, this is what I'm typing out, 1996 Topps Chrome, Kobe Bryant. And to avoid as many raw cards from popping up nowadays, I know eBay is kind of cleaning that up with as far as how people can list their items. To avoid all of the raw cards that are going to pop up, I usually type in PSA. And me personally, I prefer PSA over the other grading companies.
Yeah.
If you like BGS, put in BGS. If you like SGC, put in SGC. If you like any of the other grading companies, go ahead and put that in there. But me personally, I'm a PSA collector. So in the search bar, 1996 Topps Chrome, Kobe Bryant, PSA. And I don't put a grade. I just put the letters PSA. And then you hit search, and the search that pops up is actually going to be both auctions and buy it now listings. And usually it's going to be based on certain types of sellers, that the best match sellers. So a best match seller, whenever you're selling and you're in good standing and you hit X amount of numbers and you have a higher feedback score and you meet your shipping times, you get sort of preferential treatment as a seller for your newer listing to pop up first. This is the feed that you see whenever you hit search without hitting any of the filters, without hitting sort or any of that. You're seeing all of the best match sellers. So pretty much the sellers that are top sellers or in the highest standing. So that's also something as a seller to kind of strive for, is to meet all of their criteria, because that's the first thing that people are going to see whenever they search. So the next step that I do, there's two ways to do this. So you hit sort and you go to lowest price plus shipping. And then I hit filter. And for the first example, I'm going to hit buy it now and then show results. So the feed that you're seeing now is everything that has 1996 Topps Chrome Kobe Bryant PSA in the title. Again, be careful because some people are misleading, and I know eBay's cleaning that up. You're going to see the lowest price plus shipping listings starting at the top. So if you scroll down, it's going to get more expensive as you go. So that's one thing that you can do. And if you hit on the app, if you hit save this search, it goes to your saved search list. So what this means is once it's in your saved search list, usually anytime something pops up, I think that maybe it's limiting if it's a very popular card or a very high produced card. If you get more specific, I think that you'll find yourself, or if you like choose sports that aren't as popular, you're going to get notifications as soon as new cards hit the market. You're going to get a push notifications if you have that set to on. You're going to get a push notification, and it's going to pop up, and you can hit it, and it's going to go to all of the brand new listings for that search that you search for. The second thing that I do, since now I see all of the lowest prices possible for the search that I had and kind of what they're going for, not so much what they've sold for, but what the lowest listed on eBay goes for. Another way to sort this search is if you go to sort, ending soonest, change the filter to auction only, and hit show results. So
that's one of the best ways.
That's one of the best
cards.
ones, dude.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to pick cards up in auction, because you may see something that's like a minute left, and you can just pull the trigger on something.
Right, and that's how you can snipe cards pretty easily. We've done that pretty recently. We've done that for a very long time now. What this sort is going to produce is the listings that are ending the soonest in auction, and it's going to start with the soonest to the longest or the latest. So that's another good thing, like you said. If you've done your research, and if you, even just by doing those two searches back to back, starting with the buy it now, you're going to know exactly how much the lowest available buy it now is on eBay, at least. And so say a card's going for $600, buy it now, and there's no best offer, and that's the lowest price plus shipping. And then you change your sort to ending soonest and change it to auction. And maybe you see one that's closing within an hour, or maybe even 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it's the highest bid is $400. You could be saving yourself $200 if that bid goes through and you win that auction. That's another route that we definitely pursue and use on a daily basis, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and nighttime purchases seem to be key. I know you mentioned like Sunday nights seem to be like the best time to get in on auctions, but maybe give a shot as far as like before you're, getting ready to go to bed, or, you just lay down, you're getting ready to go to bed, setting your alarm, whatever. A card that you have in mind, type that in, do all that research, as far as seeing if it's an auction, and you may win a card that you've been wanting that's been in your watch list that was too expensive, and you might be saving, who knows how many on that card. It is possible.
So if you're a seller, Sunday nights, ending your auction on Sunday nights is the best option. That's when you're going to get the most traffic. It's the end of the weekend. You're going to get a lot of people online at that time. Sunday evening is the best time to end an auction if you're a seller. I think the best time to buy a card in auction is during the day, during the week. Maybe a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, during the day. Like if a seller maybe made the decision to end an auction, maybe they weren't paying attention to the time that it was going to end, 11 a.m., 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, there's not going to be as much activity as comparison to maybe a Friday night, Saturday, or the weekend, because people are at work, people are doing things, maybe people have stuff going on. So your competition is going to be a lot less during the day, in the middle of the day when people are at work. I've won so many auctions. I've sniped some monsters, some huge cards during the day, during the work week, for a fraction of the cost of what they would have gone for as if they were listed as buy it now.
Yeah, and that comes with experience too, because these are obviously cards that most of the cards I feel like you're picking up on eBay you want for your PC. So you've already done the research, what buy it nows are, best offer, everything, so what you can actually feel comfortable making a purchase for. And that's one of the biggest things too, is when you're looking at cards, whether an auction or buy it nows, whatever it may be, you go to your sort button, hit that completed listing, sold items buttons, and then immediately what you should do, what I like to do, is again go back and then look at the ones that have ended the soonest, ended recently. Yeah, because you're gonna get cards listed from however many months, and you can be specific and see up to however many days what that card was going for, which is something else useful to do. But when you get in an auction and you got 10 minutes left and it's a big card that you're like really wanting to pull the trigger on, just like don't be afraid to just take a minute and look at what these cards have sold for over the previous week, 2 weeks, whatever. A lot of people will say, well, that can change because a guy's card can blow up from one game. We're hoping to see that die out a little bit. Everything we talked about with everything coming down a little bit, it's just more normalized prices. And I know you have definitely taken advantage of that, picking up some Kobe's recently.
You're damn right I have.
Yeah, so it's working out. For the collectors, it's working out. A lot of collectors are now able to get these cards that they wanted because they were able to hold off from paying $600 for a card that's now $200.
Exactly, dude. And I think that you also made a pretty good point of looking at how much they've recently gone for. So those three sorts, so ending soonest, auction, and lowest price plus shipping, buy it now. And you could do both auction and buy it now price in the sold category. If you go to your sold tab and search ended recently, you're going to get a pretty good idea of, one, what they've gone for as recently as possible with the sold. Two, you're going to find out how much the lowest available of that card is available right now on eBay. And you're going to see what the auctions are going for. And use all three of that information to your advantage. So let's say a card ended recently, right, for $1,000 that sold today. Okay, that card went for $1,000 recently. You go to the buy it now sort, and it's going for $1,500. That's the lowest available online. It's not uncommon to see. And then if you go to auction, and there's an auction that ends in 5 minutes, and it's going for $700, you'll have a pretty informed decision of, okay, if I pull the trigger on this and I'm able to win this auction for maybe $700, $750, immediately I could get that card and list it. Obviously if you had maybe some sort of priority shipping, or if this card was going to hold that price, you could grab that card in an auction for $300 less and roll the dice, listing it right away for maybe even $20-$30 cheaper, maybe even $100 listed under that $1,500. Maybe you list it for $1,400, $1,300. You may be able to double your profits just by doing that, just by paying attention to the auctions. I don't suggest that. I think that the time period that it takes to get to you, that might be risky, but there are ways to day trade like that. But another thing to keep in mind too, and this is why you should use all three of these features, all three of these sorts, is say that a card is listed for $200. Buy it now. That's the lowest price plus shipping is $200, right? And you see some auctions ending soon and they're going for $250, $300 in the auction. The same exact card has like a lot of bids and it's going for like $150 to $200 higher than the lowest buy it now. Some people don't know how to use eBay to their advantage, and some people don't realize that you can do a buy it now or do a best offer, and that they just use the auction feature, and they could be losing money that way too. You know, obviously you would go to that buy it now and buy it, right?
Yeah, I think it really just depends on the seller as well, because you could see a card that all the listings are, let's say 200 or best offer, and then you go to the completed listings, sold listings, and they're all like around 80 to 90 bucks. It's not abnormal for people to follow these market sales and double the price or whatever it may be. That's kind of really depends on the seller. I feel like with us, realistically, what we do is we're trying to beat everyone else's prices. So if most of them are 150 or best offer and the card sells for $100, we're probably going to put it at, 110 or best offer, or $100, buy it now or something, just trying to keep up with that, and match that. I think that's very important, but it just depends on how much you're trying to sell the card. Because for us, I mean, at the end of the day, we're collectors. So it's like when we sell cards, we're just turning around and trying to reinvest it into cards that we actually like or players that we like. A lot of the cards that we're actually selling is stuff that we don't have any type of attachment to. We're just trying to sell it and get an older Messi card or something.
Right. And the reason why we do that is not only because you sell your cards quicker. That's one of the main reasons why we do it that way. If we're the lowest on eBay, who doesn't want the lowest on eBay? We know how we search. We know how we try to find the best deal. So we know how to sell at the best deal. And not a lot of people will do that. And, we have friends, we have people that we talk to that they know exactly how much they want to let go of their card for. And that's fine. Like, you can wait, you can let the card sit there. And if it's not that big of a deal, if you don't need the money right away and you're okay with it sitting there, like by all means, like list however you want to list it. It's your cards at the end of the day. It's your property. But one of the reasons why we do that as well is just kind of from an ethical standpoint. Like of course, we're always trying to make the most money possible, when we're selling a car, especially if it's something that we don't have too much of an attachment to. We try to, make the most money, but we also just know that like we're not trying to gouge people, because one, that strategy doesn't really work, because if you're $400 above maybe the lowest price, you're probably on like the second or third page of eBay. So nobody's even going to see it anyways. But it also feels good to be able to help, hook people up with deals.
Yeah, everybody should feel like they win in a deal. I think that's something, because realistically, we trade a lot with friends. We buy and sell to friends, and you want to give them that discount. You should be able to do that with even random people, because you never know that you might be helping somebody complete a card that they really want for their PC, and they're going to keep that with them till they have kids and pass that down. And you may never know what kind of experience you have that way. And at the same time, if you sell a card for a decent price, you're making a profit on it, and that person gets it, and then they turn around next season and sell it for double, then good for them. But it doesn't mean that you're losing out just because you don't get the top dollar for a card. I feel like it's important to share in the community this way and let everybody win, whether they choose to get a card for the PC or if they end up making a profit as well.
Right.
If you're doing okay, and I'm not saying give away your best cards for dirt cheap, but yeah, don't do that at all. But at the same time, I mean, you want to be competitive with pricing,
right?
And you hope that when you're buying cards from sellers that they're willing to work with you a little bit. That's how it should be in the hobby. Everybody should win.
And I recognize whenever we sell our cards on eBay, I recognize a lot of our repeat customers, a lot of the people that buy from us again, because they know that we're giving them a deal, and they usually reach out and they'll say, hey, do you have any more of these that you haven't listed? And we'll say, yeah, like, what are you looking for? And they just know that we're, at the end of the day, with the cards that we have both in our collection whether it's for PC or whether it's for investing purposes or just holding it long term. We try to operate from an abundance perspective. We don't like to operate from a scarcity perspective. So if we're looking at our collection, let's say just the portion of our collection that we're willing to sell at any given moment, just depends on when the price is right. If we kind of look at our overall collection as just like a mutual fund, I guess you could say, if we look at our entire cards that we would be willing to sell and that are not PC, if we just look at it as a total amount, then we can operate without any sort of kind of hesitation, because it's like if maybe we let go of a card for a little bit less than maybe we wanted to sell it for, but weeks down the road or months down the road or a day down the road, we're able to sell a card for maybe $200, $300 more than we ever thought we were going to sell it for. Like, it just kind of balances out. So we have a pretty good amount of cards that we're willing to sell at any point. So we're going to be selling at the top of the markets when possible. But if we list a card, we know how much we, like I said, paid for it. We know how much it's worth as far as the market goes, if we're the lowest price on eBay. And if we're up, if like especially with soccer cards that we've had that we got for like pennies on the dollar, paid $12 to get them graded, and they're going for even $100, even sometimes $500, $600. Like, greed doesn't really it doesn't feel right to be like, no.
Yeah, and if you don't believe in that player, then why not make the sale and just reinvest into what you want? Because at the end of the day, a lot of these cards, whether they're hot rookies at the moment or whatever it may be, when they come back 10s, I mean, sometimes you just know, like, all right, I'm going to make a profit on that. And I feel like we're always conscious of the cards that we're purchasing and selling, because it gives you a better idea of what your collective return is going to be. If we send out, still waiting for hundreds of cards at PSA, but a lot of those
over
cards,
a year now,
even though I can't remember a lot of them now, we still had an idea of what we thought they would come back as a grade. And regardless of where that card is at that point when we get it back, we just know the idea that we have a price that we set with it that we were comfortable getting rid of, worst case scenario. But yeah, it's got me thinking about those PSA cards, dude. It's never coming in.
They are, dude. They're for the longest time, our second sub the status was at PSA grading, and now our third and fourth subs are at PSA grading. So that second sub should be popping soon, and I think that third and fourth should be not too far behind after it. So soon, man. I mean, again, everybody out there knows if you do send in a lot of cards for grading, like, you kind of just have to send them, if it's not express or like, the super express, if it's bulk grading, you kind of have to just send them off and just forget about them. Like, if you're sending out bulk cards for grading and you need that money, that return fast, you need to figure out a different way to make money or a different way to invest. If you're okay with like how we are, if we're okay with sending out a bunch of cards and then just expecting a payday in a year or a year and a half, that's fine with me. It's like a little bonus.
I think we've just also learned to accept it. It is what it is. We're obviously anxious, like a whole bunch of other people. Everybody is anxious to get cards back. The biggest thing for me is it sucks to see how it rubs people the wrong way. I did a show recently and I talked with a guy, super nice guy, older. He has a bunch of great cards, vintage cards, and he had finally gotten around to the idea of sending cards out for grading, but he just couldn't see paying these prices. And he was aware that PSA is supposed to be opening back up soon, and he's just kind of like
paying the grading prices.
Yeah, and he was just at the point where he's like, I thought about for the longest time, even before pandemic, everything, where he was going to grade cards, and just more and more he just waited, and it just left him to the point where he's just not feeling it at all. And this is a guy that had a bunch of raw Dan Marino rookies, Jerry Rice rookies, like probably some really nice condition stuff that he's just had in his collection for a long time. But it got to the point where he kind of just realized, I'm just going to settle for keeping these cards raw, which I do like that aspect as well, especially if you're not selling cards. I feel like if you, especially when it comes to vintage, these cards raw, of course, for us, we've learned to having them encapsulated is probably for the best, but at the same time, it's always nice to have those raw cards just in hand, you know? So this guy kind of just settled on, I'm just going to give up on grading completely, and I'm just going to keep my cards the way that they are and continue to take care of them.
Take care of them, man. That's the biggest aspect. If you aren't going to get them graded, just take care of them. Keep them out of the elements. Keep them away from, direct sunlight. Keep them safe, because they will deteriorate. And who's to say that, grading has been around for a while, but it hasn't been around for that long. Like, who's to say that cards aren't still deteriorating inside of those cards, inside of those
I've always
slabs,
thought about that too, especially with Chrome cards. What is the best way? You can put your cards in a freezer. If anybody wants to try that out and like wait a year and see what happens, let them defrost.
Make sure it's like a PSA 3 of a crappy card before you do that. Things have changed, but everything always changes. Where the hobby is at right now is very different from where it was when I first got into it. But there's positives and negatives for a lot of things. If you look at things differently, the prices are definitely the sealed wax prices aren't nearly as cheap as they were when I first started, but the prices are going down a little. It's a little bit cheaper for hobby boxes and whatnot.
You still got into it though before everything. It was still around the time where there was like Luka rookies, even Zion rookies, I guess. Like there were certain cards that had value, which was kind of abnormal at the time, and then you're like, hey, I picked up a PSA 9 Michael Jordan for $35 and they're like $200. What do I do? Like, that's up to you, man.
I remember when I first started, not when I first started, but like maybe like February of last year, I remember I picked up a Jason Tatum PSA 9 optic base card for like, or I think it might have been an optic shock, actually, PSA 9.
You had a bunch.
I got it for like $12.
Got a few gems.
Like those days are over.
I wish I still had Tatum's, actually.
Right. Same, dude.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, dude. So let's get into our pickups and flips of the week. So this week, my pickup of the week is a 2006 Panini Goal. That's Goaal. Goal! Exclamation point. World Cup. This is World Cup Germany. This was in Germany in 2006. 2006 Panini Goal World Cup. Leo Messi. This is card number 106, and this Beautiful is a card. PSA 7. And I remember maybe like even like 3 or 4, maybe like 5 months ago, this exact card was going for like, what would you say, like $400? Maybe like $350. Yeah. And I got this in auction with all the strategies that we just told you. I got this in auction for $107.
Yeah, that's not a card that you can lose on. You, for the simple fact that you like Messi, and he is already an established GOAT. So even if that card stays at that price, does it matter? Are you trying to sell that anytime soon?
Nope. Not at all, man.
I'll trade you.
We've got some Messis we can trade for sure. What about you?
My pickup of the week is going to be a 2018 Panini Select Dwayne Haskins. Yep, I said it again.
Big baller.
Dwayne Haskins. This is the XRC Prism Redemption card. I have this in a PSA 9. It is card 303. Real quick, for those that don't know, XRC stands for Extended Rookie. It's not abnormal to see as far as baseball and soccer, where you have more of like a prospect aspect to it. But when it comes to football and basketball especially, you just don't really see XRC cards. So it's kind of something that I've really enjoyed watching with Select as far as the XRCs that they do for football. Most of the time they're very expensive. Obviously, I bought a Dwayne Haskins and not a Kyler Murray or something crazy, so it wasn't that bad. I won this card for $32.50.
And what was the grade again?
PSA 9.
Nice.
So, and they're great cards. They're naturally silver. I know that they do have parallels for it as well, like the tie dyes to 25 or whatever and some other stuff, but just beautiful cards. The Select XRCs are really, really nice. And like I said, I would like to have a a Lamar Jackson or a Mahomes or a Kyler Murray, but those are just way out of the price range. So I settled for the Dwayne Haskins. I have no idea what he is going to be doing. Initially thought it was going to be going to Pittsburgh. That's not going to happen. So who knows? But either way, I've just been picking some up because, I've liked Dwayne Haskins, and these select XRCs are just beautiful cards. So that's my pickup.
Nice. So my flip of the week is back in January, actually January 21st of this year. I think we kind of went on a little bit of a Vladdy spree on picking up some slabs because we knew, both of us knew that Vlad was going to have a big season, and he has definitely had a big season. So we definitely picked up some Vlad cards, some graded cards before we knew they were going to take off. I picked up this. It's a 2019 Topps Now. This is Vladimir Guerrero Jr., card number 137, a PSA 10 rookie card. And I picked that up in January of this year for $21. And I sold this recently for $58. So not a crazy flip, but for a non-flagship and a non-Bowman and a non-first Bowman, like that's a pretty good flip, I think, for a Topps Now card, just like an alternate rookie.
A flip is a flip. You've been picking up Vlad for a while. I know I've had a lot of his cards since 2016. You're naturally a Blue Jays fan, so I know you've been picking up him and Bo and a few of the other guys.
Right.
And you still have Vlad cards, I'm sure, that you're holding on to.
Yep, for sure. What about your flip?
My flip of the week, like I said, I did a card show recently, set up a table. This card was actually one of my recent pickups of the week, and I sold it at this show. Was a 2015-16 Panini Threads Devin Booker RPA. This is the signatures sticker auto. Still a nice card, thicker card, really tough grade. I had picked this up not even that long ago in a trade, and I sold this card for $250. So
wow.
A lot of people at the show, in Arizona looking for Suns cards, especially looking for Devin Booker. It's the only one I had. I had some people asking about it. I think I had it at like $325 or best offer. And finally, I asked a guy, he was very interested in the card. He ended up buying a couple cards from me, but he said, "Would you take $250 for it?" I said, "Sure." And he was a diehard Suns fan as well. So, again, everybody needs to win, share the hobby that way. It's important.
So those are our pickups and flips of the week. We didn't even mention the Suns, bro. Finals. It's the first time since 93, 28 years.
Long time coming. I know we remember it back in the day. I know that we remember, when Nash was playing Amari Stoudemire. I remember we saw it come close. We've never been able to see him completely pull it off. And dude, it's just, I feel blessed over it, man. It's good for Arizona. Arizona needs it.
For real, man. For real. Book needs it. CP3 needs it. Ayton's getting it early. I saw a stat today that he, not the youngest, but the quickest player in 20 years to reach the finals. So his rookie year was 2018. So for him to reach it in 2020, he was the quickest to reach it in like 20 years, I think. I think Kenyon Martin was the last person to do it.
Name drop.
Not Kenyon Martin Sr., by the way, because his son's playing now. But shout out to the Suns, man. We've watched every single game, majority of the regular season, but every single playoff game. This run has been amazing. F Patrick Beverley forever. I'm gonna say it.
He apologized. Dude, you're heated in the moment. It's unnecessary, but overall, just stoked for the Suns. That whole team deserves it. I know one of the biggest things that we talked about is they have a great starting lineup, but their bench is good as well. So the starters get rest, the benchers get to play, and everybody gets rest, and they just continue to perform.
Right. I think it's our finals to lose, man. Especially if Giannis and Trey aren't back. Like, what are they gonna do? Both of their offenses are pretty, revolve around those two players. I think Trae Young's probably out for the season. I was reading some of the medical reporting on it, and I think like the bruised bone takes like months to heal, which
Yeah, it's sometimes not worth it too, man, because
no,
they could
he's so
come back
young.
for a season, but then again, do you want that person to further injure themselves and then they're out for the next regular season? Sometimes it's just not worth it.
No, it's definitely not worth it.
It'd be the same thing for us, you know. We hope all Suns players continue to be healthy, but if somebody's just not feeling it or out of it or appears injured, I mean, they need that rest. I mean, these players
Right.
are performing all the time. I mean, it's only necessary.
Especially if you're a young player, like if you're an older player, like if you're just trying to get that ring, like CP, he's an older cat. You know, he just was like, no, I'm ending this tonight. This game is over. So
Dude,
you could tell that he was really pushing himself. I mean, you dropped 41. Like that's huge
yeah,
in a closeout game.
he's a whole other breed, man. I would see him with like a foot brace or something, just still out there playing. I mean,
Right. Just dishing it from a wheelchair. But shout out to the Suns, man. Huge run. So excited, so happy to see it. Maybe we'll have a full episode about the Suns and the history of the Suns for all our local listeners. But
yeah, since they won't get a proper documentary probably on ESPN.
no, definitely
ever.
not. Nope. So as far as today's episode goes, man, how do you feel about what we covered?
Yeah, like we say with everything, just doing your research. Don't panic buy things. You know, see what things are going for. Pick up what you like. I mean, don't just pick up something because it's hot. Just do more investment. Like for us, the Suns right now. I mean, if we can pick up some Suns players, some rookie cards on the low right now. I mean, everything's going to be a little bit high, obviously, because of the position that they're in. But just go for the things that you like and do your research and, you know, look at the completed listings, follow auctions, you know, follow all these steps if you're not familiar with eBay. And the most important thing is download yourself the app, have that app on hand. It's much easier to navigate that way.
Also much easier to spend money, so be careful with your spending too.
Yeah, that too.
That pretty much kind of covers what we wanted to cover in the topic. I know that we wanted to cover a little bit more, but maybe we'll just make that a whole separate episode as far as picking up wax online and who to trust and who we trust. But for now, we really do appreciate you listening every week. We really thank you for the support. We get a lot of comments and direct messages on Instagram talking about the podcast and how they like certain episodes or they like what we're doing. So thank you for listening. We hope that you subscribed and we hope that you continue to stay subscribed because we're going to keep doing this. Life's changing a lot. You know, I've got a baby on the way. You have almost a year.
9 months old. He just turned recently.
Right.
Can't keep him still.
So we're going to keep doing this. And, you know, we've got some sponsorships in the works right now. And we really thank you all for supporting and continuing to support. So with that being said, this has been another episode of Wax Talk with Raw Mints. I'm Carlos.
And I'm Bruce.
Thank you for listening.